For me, energy, positive energy is more important than intellect. So you will get a lot of intellectual people. They will intellectualize with you. यार ये ना हो नहीं सकता. सारी intellectualization would be on why can't something happen. But high energy, high intent people will typically do hit and trial, madly, without doing too much of over-analyzing. And at the end of the day, that's the game, right? You want to be in momentum. You want to do hit and trial. You want to see data, of course. You don't want to be stupid. But that's why they win.
I think there's a lot to unpack there, right? And but suddenly, I actually what we spoke about in the beginning of this conversation, right? About how you look at happiness and how you look at entrepreneurship. It's suddenly all tied up together because it just came to me that I think Aristotle or somebody said that happiness is a chief good, and it's the pursuit of excellence through repeated interactions and feedback loops that actually gives you true fulfillment and happiness in life. So I like that how it all ties up in the way you've actually approached your entrepreneurial life. So we're gonna pack that session on one side, on the entrepreneurship side of things, and we're gonna take it to the next gear and speak about investing and wealth management. Right? And the first question is actually something that I'm guessing everybody here is going to be interested in. And the question is, what are some of the mistakes that wealthy individuals make while investing and they don't know it?
Yeah, I guess, they don't asset allocate properly. They don't rebalance properly. They rely on sometimes an advisor who does not have the wherewithal to advise. You got to learn on your own, because if he knew how to make money for you, he would make money for himself first. Why would he be sitting at your doorstep? So I guess these are the things, right? Like getting like this whole concept of, there's going to be an RM and he's going to solve my life. I'm not too sure how it works. And finance, I don't come from a finance background, but the problem is that these guys who were in the finance industry, they played the game of information arbitrage, which means make things complicated, throw jargons. Repo rate. I didn't know what repo rate is, right? Aaj se 4-5 saal pehle, what repo rate and all of that stuff is being thrown at you, and then you say, yeah, there's something complicated. Yeah, let me do what he's saying. Actually, it's very simple. It's more simple than cooking. It's really, really simple. So people out here should gain knowledge. It's very easy to do. Asset allocate. Simple. Don't put all your eggs in a single basket. Asset allocate. Allocate more and more of your allocation should be more towards passive, and some bit you say, okay, 5% of my money I'm going to put in risky bets. I'm going to put it in venture, I'm going to put it in startups, etc., but not like going and putting 10 or 20% of your wealth. So yeah, I think these are the things: asset allocation, gain knowledge, passive investing.
Some of these things that you've mentioned are genuinely very simple, right? But in investing, simple does not always translate to easy, right? And a lot of that has to do with financial discipline. And the more you get into it, you realize that most people can actually spot a right trade, but don't have the discipline to stick to it, or the market is built in such a way that it will always shake out the weaker actors, right? It'll go up, it'll go down, and it's going to test your conviction if it's shallow. I want to hear from you how IndMoney is actually helping people build that discipline for long-term investing.
Yeah, so let me actually start with this story, right? So IndMoney started as a platform for the affluent of this country, the top of the pyramid. That's how, I had envisaged it, because I could relate to the problem, because I would have these offline wealth management companies and banks coming to me and throwing these jargons and confusing me. So I said, look, this can't be true, right? This has to be simpler. And when I started investigating, I said, look, this is really simple. It's just the money is being made out of information arbitrage, right? And then as a result, the birth of IndMoney happened. And as we scaled IndMoney, I started realizing that India needs to have, or finance needs to get democratized. Investing needs to get democratized. People need to access markets. So I guess from our vantage point, it's very simple. We are the app, basically, it's an app-based DIY, right? People download the app. It automatically understands the profile. So if somebody is a wealthy HNI, the personalized experience would be different. If somebody is someone just starting work life, the experience will be very different. And the persons are able to basically do everything, the KYC on the app. They're able to get started. They're able to choose whether they want to invest globally, whether they want, as in, do they want to invest in Google, Facebook, all of these companies that we use day in, day out? Do they want to invest in ETFs and index funds in India? They're able to do that, and they're able to see the allocation. And not just that, they're able to also pull all the investments, all the wrongdoings they may have done in the past. They're all able to pull it in a single dashboard. And the dashboard is the core glue of our product. And it just basically gives them insights every day, every week, and people feel massively in control. So it's a pretty loved product now. As I said, that's an important aspect in your journey. Product should be loved. It's a 4.7 rated app on iOS, 4.5 rated app. It's in the hands of 7 or 8 million people. So that's what the product does, right? Very simply, those things that I talked about, it helps you to not put all your eggs in one basket, which is allocation, which is really important. Number two, it democratizes. So it breaks out jargons and makes it very simple, A, B, C, D. And, and it just gives you the whole empowerment. In one click, you can withdraw. One click, you can add money and invest.
No, very interesting, and definitely IndMoney has been very helpful. What I'm also curious about, in given our demographic, we're a $2,500 per capita economy, GDP per capita. We are seeing that distribution fees is coming down. There's downward pressure. Competition in this wealth tech industry is increasing. I'd love to hear, where do you feel that long-term sustainable profit pools lie for the future of wealth management companies?
Yeah, so I guess typically the traditional wealth management companies make money through distributing financial products like AIFs, PMSs, and mutual funds, and they make commissions. Some of the products like AIFs, PMSs are very high expense ratio, and as a result, the wealth manager who's coming and selling that product to you is making huge amount of commission. And not only making that huge amount of commission in the first year, but making it every year. So which means if you put 1 crore rupees into that financial product, that individual or his company is almost making 3 lakh rupees a year from you. Now, let's say if you're invested for 5 years, you do 3 into 5 is 15 lakhs. And then you suddenly compound the cost. There's an investment compounding, but you also compound the cost. Suddenly that 15 lakh rupees is looking like 22 to 25 lakhs. So just imagine you spent 22 to 25 lakhs have got wiped out on your principal or 1 crore, which is just plain inefficient. Which is why a lot of you guys will notice, unless the fund manager, the guy who's manufacturing the AIS, is a rock star, you will find it hard to beat passive. Very, very hard. And look, some of it is my view. This is not advice. So you guys do your own research. So my view is that this is going to get disrupted. 100%. I mean, I think people will gain this understanding from products like us. There's more and more information out there. So this is going to go to ground zero, this fee. I'm not talking startup, etc., because there's huge costs of due diligence, pipeline building, etc. But especially when investing is happening in public markets, right, where there is so much of democracy of information. So I think this is going to become zero, and hence there are going to be revenue pools in advisory. But the issue is that psychologically, a lot of you guys don't like. So I talked about the 25 lakhs compounded money, right, which you guys paid. But agar wohi paise, if that guy will ask you, you'll never like to pay that. Or let's say if he says, if let's say even if it was half of it, you won't like to cut a check. which is the whole, I mean, what I look at it is a money workflow issue. But otherwise, it's a pretty interesting, if the regulator allows the money to be settled as a part of the purchase of investment products, I think advisory is a pretty nice thing because you would end up buying commission-free products. So, but that revenue pool to unlock the regulator needs to change. I don't think that's happening in the short term. Other than that, you have, in the wealth management industry, you would have some honest insurance products. You would have, discount brokerage, such as companies like us, which are very, very low and high volume, right? Where millions of transactions happen and then doesn't hurt anyone, which is our model essentially. Or essentially you will create credit lines and lending solutions for people, which is pretty high margin net interest margin businesses. But I guess the traditional wealth management where there are large commissions, that's in for cleared. I mean, that's going to hit ground zero. So my suggestion is, even if somebody's going to become an AMC or manufacturer, go zero fee, make money out of performance.
Very interesting. My next question, right before I asked the question, I realized that I forgot to give a disclaimer to the audience. None of this is investment advice. Please consult your advisors before, because it's a recorded session. And the reason I gave this disclaimer is because my next question is actually going to be about finfluencers. So look, I think the question I have now is that finfluencers, finance influencers are getting a lot of heat nowadays, right? And a lot of that is from mainstream media. And the interesting thing is that, about 3-4 years back, the same media was actually touting these influencers that, hey, these guys are, democratizing investments and whatnot. And one of the influencers has actually written about this, that this was only in the case when these guys were smaller. Now there are influencers who have 2 million, 3 million subscribers, and they are basically crouching on the territory of these media outlets. So the entire thing has come around that, hey, these guys should have a RIA license and whatnot, and they should be SEBI registered. Now, I'm not taking sides here, but the media outlets don't have those SEBI registrations either. And they've been, giving that kind of financial advice for years, right? Given that you are somebody who interacts with even finfluencers and the media, your thoughts on this subject?
Yeah, so let's first understand what the regulator is saying. So what the regulator does not like is that anyone should, I should not get up here and start inducing you to buy a particular security. Or I should not start inducing, let's say if I were an influencer, which I'm not. So I should not induce you to open an investment account. Or I should not induce you to buy an underlying security, actual security. But the regulator is very happy if I come and educate you. But very unhappy when I try to peddle a security and when there is kind of insider trading going on, and when, especially penny stocks, where the influencer is saying that, listen, you buy this X or paise ban jayenge aapke, right, and promising returns. So that is something which the regulator is very unhappy about, and that has happened. So I think there are two kinds of influencers. One is influencers who are educating consumers, who would typically educate consumers about, the core features of an application, or would educate people about core financial concepts. What is inflation? What is ETF? What is index fund? What is compounding? How does it work, right? So that's one kind of education which is very valuable. What is not right is selling a security like a TV shopping network, coming in saying buy Z, X, Y, and especially these penny stocks, because there's a lot of gaming possible, low volume stocks, right? Basically, actually any security. So that is where the problem statement is. It is akin to almost, insider trading. It influences people, right? So, and they don't want inducement to happen, because a lot of people end up losing money, or somebody's teaching someone, I'm doing F&O and I made so much of money. The reality is a large percentage of people lose money on F&O. And that is what the regulator, so regulator's job is people protection. So what is the regulator saying? I want to protect investors' interest. One. Second thing the regulator is saying, I do not want fraudulent people to open accounts with companies like us or offline companies, which means KYC is extremely important because in India, there is a lot of impersonation which happens. In India, there's a lot of people who do fraud because there are very smart people. And the third thing regulator is saying is no money laundering should happen because this becomes a great way. So how do you ensure? So these are the three. And fourth thing is, of course, investor grievance. These are the four things that the regulator is saying. And it's a pretty progressive regulator, by the way. I'm personally very, very impressed.
And so net, there are, of course, finfluencers who are peddling these kind of buy at one time, and there are others who are actually educating. Net, do you think they have a positive impact on society, or is that something?
Yeah, I think the ones, I think net, there could be some negative, and the regulator regulating or creating a framework would be good. I guess a lot of media outlets, now that you talk about, let's say, CNBC, it's talking a lot about stuff and securities. Do they have a research analyst license? I need to check. It's a good point. I'm going to check that. Because at the end of the day, an influencer on YouTube is pretty much like an anchor on CNBC TV 18. We should all check that. I'll check that and I'll come back to you. But I guess these guys should have some kind of a license to be able to communicate, to be able to be governed and regulated, both on the media side and on the influencer side.
I think in general, just listening to media commentators and making investment decisions, that's just a rookie mistake, isn't it? You should always.
I think if I'm not mistaken, what the media, the traditional media, right, like CNBC, etc., what they are saying is that Morgan Stanley said this, or Motilal said this, what the brokerage houses said, or what the research houses said. I think they're saying that. Unlikely that they say, oh, I'm saying this. Unlike what the influencer says, I'm saying this, ye FNO kar lo. Right? So I think that is what they're saying. But having said that, even they and the normal influencers and influencers should be under regulatory apps.
I agree. So we're going to move to the next section of our conversation, which is a little bit more fun. It's a pop quiz.
Okay. I'm not good at these quizzes.
We'll see, right? We're going to start with this very simple one. You have to tell me the first word that comes to mind when I say the word intoxication.
Excitement.
Okay. First word that comes to mind when I say health.
Wealth.
When I say wealth.
Health.
The first word that comes to mind when I say personal brand.
Equity.
Can you elaborate?
Personal brand is like equity, right? Your personal equity.
Okay. That you
value of that equity, right?
How do you unlock that?
How do you unlock that value? By creating.
Okay. First word that comes to mind when I say the word entrepreneurship.
Impact.
All right. Next section is fill in the blanks. The best Indian startup founder, in my opinion, is?
Okay, now that's a difficult one, right? I think the InfoEdge founders, both of them, Sanjeev and Hitesh, I think they're one of the best founders. They've built a very good institution and they've also invested in some of the best assets.
What about your competitors, the Kamath brothers?
I don't think of them as competitors. That's just a joke. But
all right. The best TV show or a movie about startups and entrepreneurship, in my opinion, is?
I thought the movie, I forgot the name of the movie, but the whole Facebook story was really
Social Network.
Social Network, and the other one was the We Crash. I thought We Crash was actually
We Crash was really good.
Yeah.
If I were to do another startup, it would be in the Dash space.
Oh, this is easy, right? It will be in the health insurance tech space.
You can refer to Ashish's latest LinkedIn post for this, for the backstory to this. You want to double click on that a little bit?
Yeah, so I think it's pretty simple, right? So I had to visit the hospital because my daughter contracted dengue, and I thought to be safe, let me just check her in. And went in and kind of checked her in, and then there was this whole process which was like a circus. So I'm going to the hospital to get her admitted. And then there is this thing called TPA, which it felt I've come to India in 1985. Everything has turned gray around me, right? They were making me fill forms and so on and so forth. And then it was a circus of approvals, and then on the day of the discharge, it was worse. And I really kind of reflected, and I thought, this is so broken. And the way to solve it is, I'm not saying any solution is simple, and I'm not saying it's going to succeed. So please do your own research. But I think the way to solve it is that you need to launch your own first party underwriting health insurance company. You cannot be a broker or an aggregator. You need to do that. And you obviously there is licensing, etc. But now the regulator is pretty open. And you need to completely build it fully digital with proper machine learning to be able to do underwriting. And so that, let's say when you go to the hospital, you'll almost do it like a QR code UPI transaction. Click, approved, everything done, and you're just checking out like that. And that's absolutely possible if you're a first party health tech where you are integrated with the hospital management system, you have AI based underwriting systems, and that operates at scale.
So look, guys, he's thrown out a business idea for you guys.
Somebody's building
it out.
so you'll invest.
I would. All right, next. India will be a $1 trillion economy by 2030.
Look, I don't want to, again, this could have compliance issues if I'm going to project, but yeah, I mean, we are like, we can't do many things, by the way, as a regulated company, but definitely my sense is that India will not, by 2030, India will not cross China for sure. I guess I can definitely say that the per capita GDP of India should cross 4,500. And at that time, magic won't happen.
Fair enough. All right. Dash is my favorite finance investing app other than IndMoney.
Okay. Investing app. No, I don't have any. Like I eat my dog food really, really aggressively.
Okay, I'm still going to hold you to an answer. What else do you use other than IndMoney?
So obviously before IndMoney, I was using at least 8 or 10 tools, right from the bank's brokerage app, Kotak Securities, HDFC Securities, Zerodha, 8 to 10 of them, right? So not
never happy, and that's why you built IndMoney.
Perhaps, yeah.
All right, fair enough. So the last section before we open for audience questions is something really interesting, okay? And we pulled out a picture of you from when you were 20. So the last section is advice to your 20-year-old self. One piece of advice that Ashish of today would give the 20-year-old Ashish. By the way, that's 20-year-old Ashish. Huh? And we pull this out again from his social media. One piece of advice that you'd give the 20-year-old Ashish about...
Don't ever have such pictures.
No, that's a nice picture. Okay, about one piece of advice about money that you'd give your 20-year-old self or 20-year-old here.
Yeah, I guess, when you want to get into entrepreneurship, earlier you do it, better it is. The typical way at least people like me who grew up, we will first do education, then we will do some work, then we'll do more education, then we'll do some work, then we'll do more education, and then we'll do it. I think that world has changed because the way even a 20, 21-year-old can imagine problems and solutions is just unparalleled. And if you really want to truly create impact, it takes a long time. So earlier you start. So I wish I had started my entrepreneurial journey in 20s and not 30s.
You know, very interestingly, we had Ashish Mohapatra here a couple of weeks back. He said the same thing to me. He's like, I wish I had started earlier. Do you think it's also because we are in an age of getting so much information? Information is more democratized now. So it's easier to learn than it was maybe, say, about 20 years back?
So interestingly, I don't think when I was born, the market was ready. The country was struggling. That $2,500 of per capita GDP that you talked about was worse, right?
Yeah.
So creating anything in a country like India, dishonestly to kuch bhi kar lo, honestly was very hard. Even the first 4-5 years of me having started the previous startups, getting the first 1,000 users was nightmarish, and then getting the next 5 lakh users was like we celebrated 5 lakh users. At IndMoney, we got the first 1 million users within months, no advertising. So it was a very different phase. The people didn't want to work in a startup. They wanted to work for Infosys. They wanted to work for Satyam, which is dead now. They wanted to work for companies like this. A lot of people took pride in working for Microsoft. They, startups were looked down upon, and people like us were starting up. Akele to nahi bana sakte. Need a team. So it was hard. But having said that, I mean, the one thing that I regret is that I wish I'd started earlier, even though I would have gone through lots and ups and downs, right?
When did you start up exactly?
I started right after Google at the age of 30.
That's not too bad at all. All right. One piece of advice that Ashish of today would give the 20-year-old Ashish about career. I think you've touched upon that now.
I've touched upon it. Like, look, I think we cannot live this horrible life that I will do X education, then I'll do post-graduation, and I'll do something else, right? That is linear. That world has changed.
What about, a lot of people thinking that, hey, let me get this exposure experience in this space or in this area, then I will be ready. Is that just fear, or you just have to overcome that?
No, I think that's fair enough, right? Like, what I feel really proud of is that the number of entrepreneurs that IBBO created, the number of entrepreneurs that PayU has created is just immense. Just imagine, I have at least 30 or 40 people who've gone out to build companies. And the reason is that they got primed, they learned the ups and downs, they learned some of the art. And today's date, there are so many entrepreneurs there, right? Like Shailaz Nag of XPayU is building DotPay, a very good service. I don't know if any one of you guys have used. Another, my ex-CTO, Vikalp, is building EkaCare, a health tech platform. Nitin Gupta is building Units, pivoting, who was the head of the PayU business. And similarly, so many of them. And similarly, lots of team members have come back to work with me, some of them as my co-founders. So the amount of value creation that happens is going to be immense. So I feel very proud of really helping or create at least 15 to 20 such startups.
Wonderful. My final question, which is something that, again, the final one piece of advice that you'd give your younger self today about relationships.
That's a tough one.
I'm going to preface this a little bit.
Yeah.
The reason I say this, right, is because I've been in the ecosystem for a while now, and I've seen very successful people, but I've also seen a lot of relationships which have gone up in flames because of that ambition, right? And they've not been happy people thereafter. So that's something which I've seen from close quarters, and I wanted to get your insight on how do you balance that kind of ambition with your personal life and relationships.
So you're talking about personal relationships or professional relationships?
Personal.
If you want to succeed, so there's this, people really cry about this work-life balance, right? So first is I personally don't believe in this concept of work-life balance, because if you're smart, you will figure it out. Second of all, you got to divide and conquer with your partner. I'm here thinking, is this relationship with your partner, relationship with your friends,
probably with your partner?
Okay, so you got to divide and conquer, right? So one of them, especially if you're the first time entrepreneur, one of them has to kind of say that, listen, you go for it, go all in, and you have to go all in, right? There is no tomorrow, and there has to be a healthy balance between the two.
So what would you tell your 20-year-old self about balancing relationships?
So when I was 20, I didn't have a work life, all of these issues in any case, right?
But for your future self.
But look, I mean, I think, no, I did fine. I did fine, right? Like Kavita is here. Did I do fine? Right.
So thank you everybody for spending your time with us. Thank you, Ashish, for solving problems for I don't know how many people. And on behalf of all of us, thank you for everything that you've done. Thank you.